Level 4 clearance is required for this classified briefing. This deadly anomaly originally caused the deaths of over 230 people. Unlike any SCP, this is a recurring anomalous hotel ritual. Over 250 terrifying entities are trapped in a weekly death loop. But leaked files show these ghosts are now remembering past cycles. Stay until the end to learn the redacted final ritual. We rarely encounter anomalies with such vivid intelligence. They show ingenuity and a terrifying clockwork complexity. Many entities demonstrate profound powers and capabilities here. This situation is a precarious, complicated, delicate dance. It is a weekly ritual involving 250 entities. Every single step must go perfectly to prevent calamity. The Foundation's top minds brilliantly orchestrate the events. Yet for all their success, a chilling question remains. How much do they truly control things here? How much do they simply not know yet? SCP-H947 is paranormal phenomena at a former hotel. It refers to the hotel's weekly anomalous cycle. The facility was the brainchild of Alejandro Tagliaferro. Its life was cut tragically short in 1922. It suffered damage from an earthquake and fire. The disaster resulted in over 230 individual deaths. Tagliaferro led a clandestine group of occultists. They were devoted to paranatural theology research. The spectral structure is inhabited by anomalous entities. They all bear the designation of 89471. The precise nature of their existence is a subject of considerable study. They are what we call tangibly corporeal, which means they can be physically interacted with by Foundation assets and personnel, but only within certain frustrating limits. If an interaction is deemed profoundly unusual or out of character by the entity's own logic, something that would not have occurred during the original gala, they typically become fully incorporeal. This has happened before when agents have attempted to physically push or pull them off their scripted path, or worse if taking what would be considered lethal action against them. Interestingly, they can be harmed, but only by other 89471 entities or through actions that are part of the anomaly's own internal narrative. Visually, these entities are unsettling. They appear as gray, mostly featureless humanoids, yet they are recognizable as the very staff and patrons who perished on that fateful night of the earthquake. They are all dressed in the opulent fashion of the 1920s upper class, though these phantom outfits show significant signs of wear and tear, sometimes to the point of being barely recognizable as apparel. Each entity possesses a unique personality, is capable of speech, and is generally self-aware. They will readily interact with Foundation personnel, treating them as if they were fellow patrons of the hotel, provided the agents are also dressed in period-appropriate clothing and speak the language of the era. During these interactions, the entities appear to follow a predetermined narrative, a kind of spectral script. They must complete a certain set of actions before the Montezuma-11 protocol can conclude. While these events typically unfold with a grim predictability, Foundation teams have discovered it's possible to slightly alter their behavior through carefully planned interactions with specific 89471 instances. Occasionally, however, large variations can occur which demand immediate and decisive intervention from Foundation game strategists. After the cycle concludes on Sunday night, all the entities vanish without a trace, only to reappear on the following Thursday to begin the play all over again. Chillingly, it appears that the entities can recall events from previous cycles. Their behavior often shifts and adapts based on the outcomes of past weeks, making each cycle a new, unpredictable challenge. At the heart of this entire anomaly lies SCP-8947-A, a massive fissure located in the foundation of the building. It's a jagged wound in the earth, measuring 50 meters in length and 6 meters across at its widest point, plunging into an abyss of unknown depth. This fissure is the absolute focus of all containment efforts. During the weekly activation events, the entities must be guided to produce a collective offering of significant monetary value. If this offering is not of a suitable value by the end of the cycle, a catastrophic event occurs. From the moment of the anomaly's discovery, it was clear that a failure to meet this demand causes the fissure to begin to widen, triggering violent seismic tremors. Only with the proper fulfillment of the Montezuma-11 protocol does the fissure stabilize and enter a period of inactivity. Current projections are terrifying. A full-scale activation event would represent an inimical threat to the Davis Dam in Laughlin, Nevada, located at the southernmost end of Lake Mojave. Previous containment failures, even minor ones, have resulted in significant geological activity in the region. A complete failure of the protocol is likely to cause unrecoverable damage to the dam's foundations. The failure of the Davis Dam would threaten every community in the lower Colorado River area of the Mojave Valley. Additionally, it could result in a catastrophic release of the dam's hydroelectric power, which itself would likely cause severe downstream flooding and infrastructure collapse. While protocols have been developed to mitigate the immediate aftermath of such a breach, no procedures currently exist to evacuate all potentially affected persons in time. It is estimated that a minimum of 110,000 people would have to be moved. The hotel and casino itself is a three-part structure, with its primary sections connected by a series of hallways and open-air breezeways. The main hotel is a towering 15-floor building with 106 guest suites. The building culminates in a single opulent penthouse with exposed roof access. The first floor once housed the grand lobby as well as a cocktail lounge and a jazz club. To the east is the restaurant wing, composed of a large dining room, 2 bars, and 5 private dining suites. In the back of the restaurant lies the kitchen. A notable feature of this wing is the Overlook Suite, a private room offering a panoramic view of the valley below. To the southwest of the hotel stands the casino, a vast single-floor structure with a high vaulted ceiling in the center. This area was filled with games of chance, including dozens of card tables, roulette wheels, and slot machines. At the far end of the casino floor is a caged cashier's desk, its bars now twisted and rusted. Over the decades, due to the ongoing seismic activity from the fissure, the entirety of the establishment has fallen into a state of severe disrepair. Many areas are no longer easily accessible, or in some cases completely sealed off. The penthouse suite, for instance, cannot be accessed via conventional means. Foundation teams have only managed to enter using shaped charges or by rappelling through the crumbling roof. The hotel itself seems to exert some sort of reality-bending influence on its own structure, as the walls themselves do not appear to be made of conventional materials. Tools or implements used when attempting to gain access often break or malfunction. Attempts to enter through an exterior window have resulted in one agent being thrown from a third-story window by an unseen force, and another developing an immediate and acute case of vertigo that rendered him helpless. Lastly, the fissure has made several areas of the basement and ground floor completely inaccessible. Any personnel or anomalous entities who are compelled to move too close to the fissure in general will experience profound feelings of dread and anxiety, though most are either unable or unwilling to explain why. It is uncertain exactly when the hotel and casino began its ghostly cycle. The first public report of something amiss was in the Los Angeles Times in 1923, detailing the fire that broke out during the gala event. But after initial investigations of the tragedy, the building was simply abandoned, likely due to its remote location and the sheer cost of repairs. The first hint of paranatural activity came in 1955, when 2 teenagers on a joyride filed a police report after seeing what they described as dancing gray figures in the fields surrounding the structure. Investigators were not able to corroborate their story, as they couldn't even get past the locked gate to the structure, and the case was abandoned. Then in 1970, a woman named Sharon Walker reported a bizarre experience on her way to Lake Havasu City from Las Vegas. The woman claimed to have seen a thick green fog emanating from the derelict structure, and a single light on in the top floor of the hotel. Through the tattered curtains, she believed an individual was visible. She reported hearing faint music and muffled shouting from within, and to have felt some kind of psychic pressure. Most disturbingly, she described seeing what she believed were bodies floating in the fog before she fled in terror, and was picked up by another passing motorist. Local police investigated but found her car abandoned nowhere near the gated road leading to the hotel. In 2004, a locally televised ghost hunting program received special permission from the state government to access the facility for one night. The episode never aired, and no member of the production crew has ever spoken publicly about what happened. However, an anonymous internet user claiming to be a member of the crew posted several times over a 6-month period on a forum for a supernatural watchdog group called the Knights of Truth. In these posts, he claimed that the production team were exposed to spectral entities who became increasingly aggressive towards them, going so far as attempting to attack one of the camera operators. The footage was apparently so disturbing it was decided the program would never see the light of day. Finally, in 2007, Foundation assets embedded in the local Bureau of Land Management noticed when authorities investigated another claim of trespassers at the site. This time, the officers were met by the anomalous entities. After first contact was made and the potential for a K-class scenario was realized, the Foundation moved in. They established a perimeter and constructed a permanent forward operating base to study and contain the phenomenon. We will now discuss the intricate Protocol Montezuma-11. Designed by occultists, game theorists, and historians. The fault was first thought to be geological. Information collected from the hotel proved otherwise. Tagliaferro's library held crucial, strange ritualistic markings. The fault was a paranatural wound upon the earth. A deep wound that was opened by a ritual. Montezuma-11 investigates the fissure's weekly activation event. It guides the 89471 entities towards specific actions. These actions must be financially lucrative for them. Sufficient winnings must be available for the event's end. The final event occurs on every Sunday night. No permanent containment method has been devised yet. This delicate manipulation stands between stability and disaster. The fissure's growth was not a fixed value. The amount required fluctuates based on unknown variables. A surplus of gold is accumulated as a reserve. This is used if entities don't produce enough. Foundation gold is introduced to offset the disparity. Incorporeal entities make their way to the fissure. It was initially thought that the growth of the fissure was a fixed value, but this is now believed to be untrue. The amount required seems to fluctuate based on a number of unknown variables. The secondary intention of Montezuma-11 is to accumulate a surplus of gold, a reserve fund of sorts. In this case, a ration of gold bullion from the Foundation's own reserve must be introduced into the scenario to offset the disparity. The incorporeal entities who win this gold throughout the week will, on Sunday night at roughly 10:51 p.m. Once they've finished, there is a brief tense pause of about 10 seconds, at which point one of two events will take place. Either the offering is accepted, in which case the fissure will remain inert. The tremors will cease, and it is safe to end Protocol Montezuma-11 for the week, or it is not. If the offering is insufficient, the ground beneath the establishment will become increasingly unstable, and a thick, green gaseous haze will begin to rise from within the fissure. The consistency of this haze is virulently toxic to living tissue, causing severe and immediate lesions on any exposed skin. As these lesions intensify, the substance begins to coalesce into a thick, fatty fluid that begins to seep from the wounds. The only known counteragent is common table salt, which must be applied in a powdered form. Personnel involved in this scenario must be equipped with both salt dispensers and full-body protective suits. If this horrific outcome occurs, 3 different, highly ritualized events must take place simultaneously. First, a D-class personnel who is a biological human child, between the ages of 4 and 6, must approach the fissure carrying at least 5 1-kilogram gold bullion bars. The child must then be made to throw the bars into the fissure, at a rate of 1 bar every 30 seconds. Every time they throw a bar, they must be instructed to say, "For the wealth we have stolen, so must we repay in gold." At the same time, another similarly aged child must stand near the fissure with a handful of salt. Finally, a third D-class personnel, an adult, must have both of their wrists cut perpendicular to their arm with a silver knife, deep enough that blood is spilled directly into the fissure. An overseeing agent must then recite, "For the innocence we have stolen, so must we repay in blood." Once the disparity between the amount of gold required by the fissure and the amount offered by the entities has been resolved, the tremors will cease, ending the protocol. Obviously, this is a nightmarish last resort that the Foundation works tirelessly to avoid at all costs. Each entity within the hotel corresponds to a different individual who died in the 1922 disaster. Let's introduce some of the more notable entities, as well as an overview of their roles to make the timeline clearer to understand. There's the entrepreneur, a man named Howard Hughes Sr., who sought to curry favor with Tagliaferro in order to secure a business deal. There's also the senator's wife, Wilma Hayes, who is deeply unhappy in her marriage and only keeps up the charade for the sake of her husband's political career. We have the capitalist Vince Cannon, who who owned a major Las Vegas publication and had previously run several hit pieces on Tagliaferro before accepting the invitation to the gala. There's the singer Clara Bow, who was the talented young daughter of a famous film star. We have the banker Richard Whitney, who was the younger brother of the wealthy owner of the Trans-American Railroad. Then there's Elizabeth Yates Moore, the heiress, the wealthy daughter of the recently deceased movie producer Gerald Moore. There's also the district attorney Thomas Lee Woolwine and his wife Irma Snyder, a deeply religious woman. We have the journalist Edward Murrow, a reporter for the New York Times and former army photographer who was an old friend of Tagliaferro. Then there's also the big winner, a woman with an almost supernatural knack for winning a jackpot in 99% of all scenarios. Finally, there are key staff members like the chef, the groundskeeper Walter Baker, and the server. In total, 256 individual entities are present during the cycle. Two notable individuals who were reported dead but are not found amongst the entities are Tagliaferro himself and his granddaughter Amelia Fitzwilliams. This leads us to the intricate timeline of events, a sequence playing out each week, Thursday to Sunday. We're provided with a golden path or opportune scenario. A sequence of events that must be carefully managed. Things start at 8 a.m. on Thursday morning. The 89-471 entities appear spontaneously within the hotel, immediately resuming the roles they were playing in 1922. The first 100 guests arrive and are checked in. The chef and his staff begin preparing for day. He expresses dissatisfaction with his new perpetually nervous server. He gathers his staff to assign duties for day. The server attempts to hide from the chef. She is unable to, and he threatens her. He threatens to fire her if she's late again. The server is visibly shaken by this harsh encounter. By noon, another 100 guests have now arrived. Lunch is served in the grand dining hall. The guests are addressed from a raised stage. It is likely that someone is giving a speech, possibly Tagliaferro, but no figure ever appears. Context clues from the guests' reactions suggest a welcome speech. Once the individual finishes speaking, the waitstaff begins serving lunch. Tagliaferro's phantom spends most of his mealtime moving around the room, shaking hands and speaking with guests. The singer is often absent from this lunch, and her absence is usually followed by the absence of the banker. It's known they retreat to a nearby broom closet to have intercourse. Their absence must not be interrupted. If they are discovered by someone entering the closet, the server flees in embarrassment and hides for the rest of the day. If she is not present at her post later, the big winner will not hit her jackpot, the contents of which are vital for the offering. During this lunch, the banker strikes up a conversation with the entrepreneur and the district attorney. Notably, the banker appears to be a separate entity from the one in the closet, a strange duplication. This conversation cannot be interrupted. It lays the groundwork for a critical meeting between the entrepreneur, the DA, and the journalist on Saturday night that is essential for a successful outcome. After being dismissed from lunch, many of the guests disperse. The senator's wife, accompanied by one of the other hotel guests, can be seen walking towards the pool. The chef spends 10 minutes admonishing his staff for their poor performance. The entrepreneur and the senator, the capitalist, the banker, and the DA all retire to the jazz club. Meanwhile, the groundskeeper goes to the first basement level to inspect the furnaces. While there, he discovers a door he had never noticed before. Behind it is a small, empty room. Finding nothing of interest, he leaves it, confused. If he's followed during this event by the singer, however, he will instead find the small vault, the contents of which are crucial for a successful Montezuma-11 event. The server, while washing dishes in the kitchen, is approached by the journalist. They speak briefly about her new job and the overbearing chef. This conversation has the most variable dialogue of any recorded. Here, the journalist tells her to be careful, and that the hotel is no place for young women like her. The server invariably dismisses his concerns. At 8 p.m., the singer performs at the hotel lounge. Her performance is interrupted by an intoxicated capitalist who makes a pass at her. She rebuffs him, and he becomes belligerent. This attracts the attention of two hotel security guards. It is critical that he is not ejected. If the capitalist is not present on Friday night, he cannot lose at cards, and the winnings are required to neutralize a Montezuma-11 event. Furthermore, he must be present Saturday night to organize the meeting of the conspirators. Foundation personnel must intervene, typically by de-escalating the situation with the guards to allow the capitalist to return to his room. At this same time, the entrepreneur seeks the chef out at his table in an extravagant display of flattery. During this conversation, which lasts only a few minutes, he offers the chef an opportunity in a franchise of restaurants. Due to her proximity while cleaning tables, the server overhears part of this conversation, which becomes vital information for her later decisions. It is possible for her to miss this, especially if she is rattled by taking the journalist's advice on Sunday morning. To avoid this, she must be compelled to remain near the entrepreneur's table in order to hear the conversation clearly. After the capitalist is released to his room, he will try to cool off and attempt to seek out the singer. The capitalist will pass by on his way to the jazz club and try to speak with her. They must be prevented from interacting, because if the two engage in any sexual activity, the capitalist will not attend the card game, and both must be alive in order to properly fulfill the ritual. The heiress Elizabeth Yates Moore serves an interesting role. She is a high-value target for producing additional gold as male guests try to impress her. Persons matched with her spend significantly more money in an effort to win her affection. However, she is also one of the most emotionally compromised major players. Her pursuit of companionship has resulted in tragic outcomes, including the deaths of other entities, either from jealous suitors or her own emotional instability. It is critical that, regardless of her interactions, she is available to sing for Tagliaferro on Sunday night, as this is a key emotional trigger for him. At roughly 9:48 p.m., the senator's wife will grow tired of her husband and approach the big winner. She'll send the big winner to play a specific slot machine and then take a seat next to her. Shortly after, the big winner will hit a massive jackpot. Occasionally, the senator's wife will instead return to her husband, but this must be prevented, as both her influence and the jackpot winnings are required to neutralize a Montezuma-11 event. Later that evening, the journalist seeks out the server again, finding her in the kitchen after her shift. While there, they discuss the chef, and the server complains about his advances towards her. The journalist offers a sympathetic ear while the server tells him she'll keep a knife on her just in case. In the past, attempts to dissuade her from taking the knife have always resulted in a worse outcome. If the groundskeeper is paired in a card game with the singer, this is the earliest hypothesized point during which he can discover the small vault, which contains enough gold bullion to satisfy the Montezuma-11 value by itself. The presence of the small vault and the location of its key are not indicative of any pre-planning on Tagliaferro's part. It's a mystery why the small vault came to be where it was, and why it wasn't discovered for nearly a century of cycles. It's theorized that the pairing with the singer allows him to find the vault so early because it creates such a significant deviation from his expected routine. Sometime during the night, a door within the penthouse is heard opening and closing, and two muffled male voices speak briefly. This is one of the only times sound can be heard in the penthouse. Recording the conversation has proven impossible. If the senator engaged in infidelity, his wife will receive a phone call shortly before they go to sleep. This call is from an unknown party, informing on her husband. It's determined that no other persons within the anomaly could have possibly made this call. Furthermore, the senator's wife offers no pushback, implying the person is someone she trusts, or perhaps she was already expecting the news. These factors have led to debate about the nature of this call, with some believing Tagliaferro gathered information from outside the hotel. After taking the phone call, she will leave the room and spend the night elsewhere. If the senator is made aware of his wife's infidelity instead, at midnight, the capitalist spends several hours on the hotel grounds drinking. While the party eventually disperses, the capitalist continues to drink outside until he passes out near the service apartment of the hotel. By 8 a.m. Friday morning, if the senator's wife was informed of his infidelity, she will return with a handgun. If she finds him in his room, she will shoot him 3 times in the chest and neck, killing him instantly. This must be prevented, as the senator must be present at the meetings of the conspirators on Saturday and present on Sunday to confront Tagliaferro. If he dies, the difference must be made up entirely by Foundation assets. A letter arrives at the front desk for the journalist. This letter details indiscretions on the part of the entrepreneur and the banker. This is a critical moment as it reframes the nature of the journalist's presence during the weekend. He now understands he was present at the hotel to follow a lead about a massive embezzlement scheme being run on behalf of the entrepreneur. The journalist will seek out the banker to question him. The two will become increasingly agitated until the banker storms off. It's possible for this letter to be lost, which usually happens by accident. This is a disastrous outcome, as the entrepreneur will have no motivation to silence the journalist prior to his revealing the information to the DA. Breakfast is served in the main hall. A table is set for an absent individual similar to Tagliaferro and his granddaughter, with a name card reading A. Shaw. It's likely that this individual is not a guest, but someone connected to Tagliaferro's young granddaughter. If the groundskeeper is paired with the singer, he will spend Friday morning exploring the basement in search of the secret vault. In a small locker on a ledge overlooking a fissure, he will find the vault key. If either the key, the locker, or the ledge are disturbed, the small vault and the secret vault will no longer be accessible for the rest of the cycle. The groundskeeper must be encouraged to construct a small walkway over the fissure. While the fissure likely did not exist until the earthquake, it is possible for entities to fall into it. When this happens, they express extreme fear and anxiety but cannot explain why. It is unknown if entities who fall in are trapped or destroyed. Proximity to the fissure induces an apparent horrific existential dread that does not manifest elsewhere. It is theorized that the entities are somehow aware that they are ghosts, and that the fissure is something alien, away from the anomalous influence that created them. The big winner, having won a jackpot, will spend the afternoon listening to the singer in the hotel lounge. If allowed, she will leave on Saturday morning and will not be available to offer her winnings to the fissure. To prevent this, one of two options must be chosen. Either her winnings are stolen during the capitalist card game. The first option, joining the card game, is discouraged, as the big winner is so skilled at cards she often wins both the capitalists' and Tagliaferro's winnings for herself. In the event that she and the singer have sex, the singer will steal her winnings. The big winner will resist this theft unless she is absent from her room at the time. This can be achieved by getting her to chase after the singer, eventually passing out intoxicated in the hotel foyer. The heiress then arrives at the hotel, shortly after which she meets with the senator and the capitalist, the three of them leaving to a private suite to talk. Her late husband believed Tagliaferro stole $75 million from their joint business venture. She believes this money is now stored in a secret vault within the casino's central vault. The senator and the capitalist have agreed to use their influence to force Tagliaferro to open his vault and give her the money, in exchange for a substantial cut. The capitalist seems to have no other motivation than pure antipathy for Tagliaferro. His Las Vegas publication is in the middle of a multi-year smear campaign against the man, and the cause of the capitalist's grudge is personal and unknown. The head researcher filed a report in 2018 detailing a unique interaction. At the end of the high-stakes card game, instead of angrily leaving, the capitalist paused, bought a drink, and looked towards the space believed to be occupied by the researcher. He smiled at a high-level game strategist, turned back to the game, and said, "It's fine, Alejandro. It's your world after all. We just live in it, don't you? Doesn't matter what it costs. You'll get what you want in the end." During lunch service, the chef makes another pass at the server, this time cornering her in the kitchen and slapping her on the bottom. She will cry out, and he will react at her violently. He must be called away before he can do any physical harm. She must be scared enough that she leaves to find the journalist. He will find her weeping in a hallway, who consoles her. At the conclusion of their conversation, she will resolve to take the knife with her and defend herself if he tries anything again. By 4 p.m. Friday, at the hotel pool, the big winner is seen talking with the singer. The senator's wife discusses with another patron her husband's service with a man named Vincent Arians before he joined the military. The relevance of this is unknown. The entrepreneur meets with the banker, where the banker expresses concern about the presence of both the journalist and the DA. Shortly afterwards, the entrepreneur makes a phone call. He believes the journalist is informing on him and will soon go to the DA. Left unchecked, this is true. If the call goes through, he will arrange for 3 individuals to kill the journalist on Saturday morning. The heiress and the banker will spend most of the afternoon in her room engaging in intercourse, and at 7:30 p.m. the banker will go to the casino floor. Here he meets a handful of other guests, including the senator and the district attorney, who all begin to play cards. The district attorney's wife exits her room after an argument, running into the banker and proceeding to have a brief but intense affair with him. Afterwards, the banker will use a key he had made for the DA's room and enter it. He spends several minutes searching their room for information suggesting the DA is investigating him. This information does not exist. At some point, he will spike a glass of seltzer water on the DA's nightstand with an unknown substance. If the DA accrues winnings greater than $100, his wife will return to get him. If she does not encounter the banker on her way out, the DA will be killed. Therefore she must encounter the banker, who will then be dissuaded from poisoning the drink. There is one strange branching scenario. If the banker enters the DA's room while the DA's wife is in it, one of three things can happen. First, the wife becomes indignant and he flees. Second, he makes a poorly conceived attempt to blackmail her. Threatening her results in her threatening to tell her husband. At that point, the banker will strangle her and then flee. The breakdown in the timeline here is catastrophic for the opportune scenario. There is a third and even stranger outcome. If the banker's attempt to seduce the DA's wife is successful, at 8:30 p.m. Alejandro Tagliaferro enters the casino. For this single appearance, he is accompanied by Amelia Fitzwilliams and the child known only as A. Shaw. For the first of only 2 times, he becomes tangibly corporeal. He will speak specifically to the capitalist, asking to be dealt into the ongoing card game. The table now consists of Tagliaferro, Mr. Jackson, and Mr. Bates. The game that follows plays out in one of 3 ways. In the first and most common outcome, the 2 men play aggressively until Tagliaferro wins the final pot when the capitalist folds on a bluff. This outcome is the most detrimental. In the second, the capitalist will be pushed out of the game by the entrepreneur first. The entrepreneur will then go head-to-head with Tagliaferro. The third outcome occurs if Tagliaferro or the capitalist are made to feel threatened or agitated. They will cash out and leave the game prematurely. This is disastrous, as the game cannot produce enough gold to contribute to the opportune scenario. The fourth and rarest outcome is the opportune scenario. The capitalist plays conservatively and Tagliaferro manages to bleed him out of his earnings. The banker and entrepreneur are pushed out, leaving the maximum possible money at the table, now split between Tagliaferro and the capitalist. In the event this opportune outcome occurs, Tagliaferro will invite the capitalist to the bar. This conversation has only occurred 5 times, and every time a unique conversation takes place between them. It is the only conversation that does not follow a set script. In the second unique conversation, the capitalist remarks they've been at this a long time, and asks if he ever expected to be where he is today. Tagliaferro says he's only sure that he's been in this business too long. The capitalist proposes they have a drink. In the third, the capitalist wonders aloud if Tagliaferro ever gets tired. He says he knows there's going to come a point where it all falls apart. Tagliaferro offers to buy him a drink, and the capitalist tells him to suit himself. Tagliaferro can have whatever he wants. In the fourth, the capitalist says, "Here's to us." He says that Tagliaferro has to be getting tired, but they're rich men in a new world, and what else could they ask for? He says to another empire, but Tagliaferro ignores him, ordering another drink. The fifth and longest conversation begins with Tagliaferro telling the story of how his father, Giovanni Tagliaferro, was a poor Italian immigrant. He came here by ship, and after New York, he took what meager sum he could muster and set out west. He was sold a story of towering mountains and hills full of gold, a land where any man could make his fortune. The romanticism of the West bit him, and he came to Nevada to make a name of himself. He worked his fingers to the bones building the new frontier. He ran contracts on the Lincoln Line between Reno and Salt Lake City, and eventually scraped together enough to run a single engine. The capitalist calls it a modern American tragedy. But Tagliaferro says that his father never saw it that way. He might have even said he was happy. Tagliaferro's memories were either at their humble mission home or watching the grueling work his father did. The capitalist says that it's quite a story, a poor immigrant boy who somehow went and conquered the world. But Tagliaferro disagrees. He says he hasn't conquered the world, not even a corner of it. He has accumulated wealth beyond reason, but this isn't the world. This is just a building on a hill. He says that it wasn't the money that made his father happy, it was purpose. They were building something. The capitalist laughs and says that that's rich coming from him. He says it's all about perspective. But Tagliaferro says that he thought they were building something too, a new world his father never saw, but he was wrong. They're not meant to build. They're meant to fight for more than just numbers on a ledger. The capitalist asks if that's the burden of a rich man with all the money. But Tagliaferro says that it isn't. However, he admits that it might be. The two pause. He then says they should get back to the game. But Tagliaferro says that he knows how this ends. The capitalist agrees, saying that he doesn't have to like it, but he knows too. Saturday morning, around 1:30 a.m., near the hotel bar, The journalist is seen leaving the almost empty bar. He was watching the night's long card game earlier. He is followed by the entrepreneur and the banker. They move around the casino floor, remaining unseen. This becomes a critical block of time for him. The journalist's path must be obscured from view. His discovery will result in his certain death. His death will come before the night ends. The entrepreneur may have made a crucial phone call. If so, 3 of his hired men arrive. They arrive at the hotel with a single mission. They are there to kill the journalist now. They will locate him during their extensive search. In the event these individuals arrive, things change. The night can now play out 4 ways. Only one outcome is acceptable for our scenario. Each outcome depends upon the journalist's own survival. And if hotel patrons notice the armed hitmen, worst outcome involves patrons fleeing in a panic. In the first outcome, the 3 men arrive to kill the journalist but are unable to find him, thanks to Foundation assets succeeding in obscuring him and discreetly interrupting their search. This is the rarest outcome, relying on the most subtle manipulation. However, if Foundation personnel become too disruptive, the journalist begins to move in an unbelievable way. Instead of avoiding the men, he moves closer, eventually culminating in a confrontation which he loses. It's theorized he believes he's being herded into a trap. In the second outcome, the 3 men find and kill the journalist. He doesn't speak to the DA, the conspirators' plan succeeds, and the chain of events leading to a controlled activation begins, significantly increasing the Foundation's necessary gold contribution. This is disastrous. In the third outcome, the hitman's attempt is witnessed. Other hotel guests engage the assailants, leading to a massive brawl. Many guests flee, and about 36% leave the hotel, which is an unacceptable loss of potential gold. In the last and worst outcome, the journalist kills 1 assailant, resulting in heavy police presence and a near-total abandonment of the hotel. This catastrophic outcome can only be salvaged if the groundskeeper has found the secret vault and learned its ritual, a profoundly unlikely series of events. By 6:20 a.m., if the assailants haven't found the journalist, they leave as hotel staff begin prepping for breakfast. If the big winner still has her winnings, she will attempt to leave. This cannot be allowed in the opportune scenario. She must be stopped and relieved of her jackpot. At breakfast, the DA's wife overhears a conversation between the heiress and another guest about grievances with Tagliaferro. Later, the DA's wife and her friend invite the singer to their table, where the heiress makes a passing remark about wanting to hear her perform. The singer informs them she is scheduled to perform on Sunday. This conversation is critical as it informs the conspirators of Tagliaferro's presence and raises the DA's wife's suspicions when her husband later lies to her. A rare variable can occur. The groundskeeper may be injured in his duties. The source of injury seems random, from falls and lacerations to being concussed by a falling branch, leading researchers to believe an outside force is creating complications. It's standard procedure to monitor him closely during this time frame to ensure he avoids injury. He usually takes an early lunch break, after which he spends the afternoon tending to the gardens. During lunch, the heiress dines with the senator's wife and the DA's wife. She confesses her current situation. She is nearly broke, subsisting on an overextended line of credit. Her father sold his company, and the rest was lost in a failed business deal. What little was in his will is all she has left, as he left the bulk of his money to children from a previous marriage. Her credit has nearly expired due to her lavish lifestyle and maintaining her husband's Las Vegas estate. She believes the $75 million debt owed to her husband by Tagliaferro would be passed to her. This is provably false. The company and any money owed passed to her husband's son, who was unaware of the business affairs. At the conclusion of lunch service, the server has another confrontation with the chef. It's believed she intends to kill him, but usually when the argument does not become violent, she draws her knife and the chef backs down. Foundation assets can influence this by convincing staff to intervene. The most ideal outcome is one where the chef apologizes, but this has a small chance of one of them leaving the resort. Antagonizing them slightly is often more efficient. Shortly after lunch, the singer performs in the jazz club. During her set, a message arrives at the front desk informing her of her father's death. The news is devastating, but she must stay to sing for Tagliaferro. Any attempts to console her will result in her leaving. While her set usually runs long enough to prevent her from receiving the news until Monday, it is preferable that the set run as long as possible to be safe. During the afternoon, the groundskeeper will attempt to access the secret vault. The door has a complex lock requiring 3 keys, a cipher, and its 12-digit numerical output. The steps are known but require risky intervention. The groundskeeper needs access to 2 locked rooms, a 7th-floor administrative office and a 9th-floor greenhouse. To get into the office, he must steal a key from a secretary's desk while she is in the washroom. To get into the 9th-floor greenhouse, he must climb the building's exterior. As the key is lost, he must exploit a loose window lock, a 1-centimeter gap. The key is in a small flower pot. Any deviation from this path is fatal. The 3rd key is beneath a drain at the bottom of the hotel pool. As he is not a strong swimmer, it is dangerous. He usually must befriend another guest to retrieve it for him. He also needs to befriend a Ms. Marshall, a guest who studies cryptography, to decipher the lock. She is only present between Friday and Sunday morning, creating a narrow window. The vault also requires the code phrase omne debet mutare. He must not be given the cipher's output directly. Attempting to do so makes the assisting personnel vanish from his perspective, causing him to abandon the task. He will immediately give up his quest and return to his duties. Due to the complexity and danger, opening the secret vault is generally not considered worth the effort, unless all other avenues for a more optimal resolution are no longer possible. The potential gold payout, however, can be significant. In a 2019 test where the vault was successfully opened, several items were recovered. The first was a book titled. Other books included Seasons Descender, a French poetry collection, and Of Ash and Rebirth by Gavriel Volkov, a text not officially known to exist. It combines Gnostic Christianity, Hermeticism, and alchemical symbolism in a dialogue format. Also found were Umbra Vitae, a Greek philosophy text, with no one to translate it, papers from the Codex Ignis, a cryptic Gnostic text on a fire deity, and Azarani Erintese, a Hungarian book no one will touch. Finally, a book entitled Auric Vitae, or Golden Life, by a 16th-century alchemist. Its contents, translatable by another patron, describe living gold as a divine substance capable of granting immortality by absorbing a human soul. An excerpt from Auric Vitae is chilling. As the final breath of the ritual escapes into the crucible, so too shall the soul be drawn into the molten heart of gold. No longer bound by flesh, the mortal vessel shall crumble. The adept shall rise anew, a being of pure light and metal. The skin shall gleam with the luster of 1,000 suns. The eyes, now orbs of crystalline amber, shall perceive the universe stripped bare, beyond the veil of time and space. Know this, aspirant, the burden of eternity lies not in the years but in the unblemished purity of gold. You will walk forever in light, unyielding and alone. Inside the vault are also various alchemical tools and supplies. The vault ingredients include Serpent's Kiss mercury tellurium alloy, Sunstone embryo, a crystalline gold structure, Philosopher's Dew, liquid phase gold alloy, and Golden Tears, a resin from pyrolyzed amber. Also present are Phoenix Feather, symbolic carbonized matter, Breath of Aurum argon ambergris gas, Heart of Quartz, rose quartz heart. The final ingredients are Elixir of Perpetuity, gold flakes and honey, Echo of Thunder, rainwater, Whispers of the Forge, sulfurous gas, Veil of orichalcum, gold silk fabric, and a circle of binding runes. The only missing ingredient is the blood of a saint. The ritual transmutes a living human into gold, likely the source for a text describing a conscious, immortal but unbound existence. It is believed the failure of this ritual, with the groundskeeper substituting his own blood for the missing ingredient, caused the 1922 disaster. At 3 p.m. on Saturday, the journalist arranges a meeting with the DA, typically in the hotel's library. If observed by the entrepreneur's man, the entrepreneur becomes unsettled and arranges the murder of both the journalist and the banker. In the meeting, the journalist presents his findings, a massive conspiracy by the entrepreneur and the banker, funneling money from the Trans-American Railroad into a non-existent silver mine survey. The sum is believed to be over $75 million. The DA confesses he was already aware, and his appearance at the hotel was at Tagliaferro's request to get closer to the conspirators. After deliberation, the DA calls his office to arrange for uniformed officers to arrive the following evening. In instances where the journalist fails to convince the DA, he will instead seek out the senator's wife, Wilma Hayes. During their conversation, the truth is revealed. They were lovers, and he was asked by a dying friend from the war to look after her. If he hasn't convinced the DA, the journalist will leave the next morning. Before he does, he finds the server and tries to convince her to leave too. Her presence on Sunday is critical, so she cannot be allowed to leave. Several methods prevent her departure. The most effective is to delay the journalist's arrival to her room that evening until after the main hotel doors lock at 10 p.m. He'll be unable to enter and will give up. At 11:30 p.m. the capitalist, senator, banker, and Harris meet in the entrepreneur's suite. This meeting is crucial, requiring all 5 participants to be present. Each conspirator has their own motivation, from greed to a desire for Tagliaferro's ruin. The subject of the capitalist's antipathy towards Tagliaferro is a mystery. His Las Vegas Gazette initially ran positive stories, but by 1913 began attacking Tagliaferro's business dealings and connections to organized crime. Tagliaferro once called the capitalist a man of little character. The entrepreneur begins the meeting. We're all in agreement. We confront Tagliaferro tomorrow. By Sunday night, he hands over the vault. If not, we go to the DA. The capitalist scoffs, soft-headed drunk. We do more. We break him. If he won't hand it over, we take it. The senator objects. This is extortion, a shakedown. If this turns bad, it'll destroy my campaign. I will not be seen strong-arming a man like Tagliaferro. The capitalist replies. Don't get sanctimonious. We all stand to gain a fortune. The heiress interjects, call it whatever makes you sleep at night. So long as the money ends up in my hands. The entrepreneur laughs, admiring her candor. The senator asks if she's certain the money is there. She insists her husband never lied. The entrepreneur mentions the journalist, and the room falls silent. The banker dismisses him as just a reporter, but the senator feels something is off. The capitalist scoffs, but the banker insists he's more than that. The entrepreneur adds that he's been asking questions. The senator brings up another problem, the DA. She's here too. We have to consider if she's a liability. If she's involved, I can't be caught in the middle of it. The capitalist says to keep her out of it. When the senator asks, and the DA, the room goes silent again. In the single instance, the groundskeeper opened the secret vault. It occurred shortly after midnight on Saturday. Around 2:12 a.m. the front desk phone begins ringing while the clerk is away. The call must be answered by a Foundation agent. It's a mystery who is calling. The call has occurred 3 times, each picking up where the last left off. The audible voice is Tagliaferro's, recounting a story. It's believed the call takes place in the present day. Tagliaferro's voice says, I heard a story from a Mamluk merchant in Cairo. His fingers had lingered too long over the weight of my coin purse. He leaned in low and then told me this story. There are many gods, but there is one God that demands only one thing, more. He told me about his former master, a man who had no god but greed. His wealth grew like rot upon the bones of the less fortunate. He spoke of late nights by candlelight, of ledgers inked in misery, and he told me of the visitor. At first it was nothing, a shape in the corner of his eye. He would wake in the night, certain that something was standing at the foot of his bed. The richer his master became, the closer the visitor came. He lined his doors with silver, but this was not something that could be bribed. One morning, his master's servants woke to find his bed empty. Only an indentation in the dust on the floor. His wealth remained. I asked if they ever found him. The Mamluk had said that they found nothing, save for a single coin, made of a metal no one recognized. This god does not demand temples. It only waits, watching you count, watching you hoard, and when it decides you have given it enough, it comes to collect. The individual listening to the story says he felt a tug at his hip, as if something was pulling on it. Around 8 a.m. on Sunday, several individuals leave the hotel. There is no way to prevent them from leaving without breaking the script. Contingencies for if too many people leave are exceedingly risky. It is better to ensure they do not get to this point. One of the hotel groundskeepers finds the transfigured golden body of the first groundskeeper in the garden. He and other staff spend the morning moving the body into the hotel atrium. At breakfast, the singer joins the DA's wife, who confides she is a devout Christian and saw the singer's father perform at her church. She asks the singer to perform Down in the River to Pray at the night's event. Adding this song to the setlist has been shown to marginally shorten the time between the confrontation and the riot. This can be beneficial in scenarios where the DA is killed, as his wife must not reach the resort edge before the cycle ends. Just before 2 p.m., the capitalist assembles a small group of men, including a casino owner and a boxer, armed with clubs and batons. He lies that law enforcement is on its way, and they must stop Tagliaferro from escaping. Around 2:35, the journalist meets with the server, warning her about the potential confrontation. He tells her to stay out of it. It's clear from her response that she is aware of the money laundering and wants to see the chef get his comeuppance. By 4 p.m. on Sunday, very little can alter the course of events. None of the highest value individuals can be persuaded to leave. The dinner service proceeds without interruptions, though Tagliaferro is absent. The chef, present in the dining room, is seen speaking with the entrepreneur before leaving for the lounge at 8:45. This conversation is believed to be the chef signaling the beginning of the evening's events to the entrepreneur. At this point, there are 3 possible outcomes. The first is an uncontrolled activation, where the fissure expands, triggering a seismic catastrophe. This disastrous outcome occurs if key conspirators are absent from the lounge. The second is a controlled activation. The opportune scenario plays out, but there isn't enough gold to satisfy the fissure. The fissure expands until the required quantity is provided via ritual, at which point it recedes. This has been the most common outcome. The third and most ideal scenario is neutralization. The conditions of Montezuma-11 are met, enough gold is present, and the fissure does not expand. Instead, a harmless anomalous fire breaks out, and the entities disappear for the week once it burns out. In an uncontrolled activation, Tagliaferro goes to the lounge alone. At 10:51 p.m. he rises, walks to the edge of the fissure, looks down and disappears. His last recorded words are, "Strange. I thought it would be different this time." In the opportune scenario, the singer begins her set in the lounge at 9 p.m. All major players are present. At 9:15, Tagliaferro arrives to a standing ovation, ushered to a private table with his granddaughter and A. Shaw, who remain unseen. As the band's hour-and-a-half set concludes, the capitalist, heiress, entrepreneur, senator, and banker all converge. At the end of the set, the 5 conspirators make their way toward Tagliaferro's table to make their public accusation. The capitalist tells Tagliaferro he shouldn't keep company with desperate men. Tagliaferro replies he shouldn't keep company with honest men. The senator raises his voice, offering Tagliaferro a chance to clear his name. The entrepreneur says, "It's simple. Open the vault. If you open it and there's nothing there, we'll be on our way." The heiress speaks up and the senator adds, "We expect to see the money that he stole." Tagliaferro casually remarks on their scheming. The heiress demands the $75 million owed to her husband's estate. He calmly replies that her husband never had that much money, and certainly didn't give it to him. The crowd shouts in disbelief. The capitalist clamors for him to prove it by opening the vault. Tagliaferro asks if he's sure this is what he wants, directing the question specifically to the capitalist, who nods. Tagliaferro then agrees. The conspirators lead Tagliaferro out of the lounge and onto the casino floor, followed by a large crowd of spectators, including the server and the journalist. Casino security forms a line as the group stops at the cashier's cage where the vault used to be. After a long, tense silence, Tagliaferro tells the capitalist, "Some things are not meant to change." The vault lock is triggered with heavy sounds of moving steel, followed by a low groan. The vault doors swing open. Guests clamor that it's their money Tagliaferro stole. Tagliaferro is speechless, the entrepreneur vomits and faints, and the heiress stumbles back, weeping. The capitalist stares into the vault and shouts for Tagliaferro to explain what he's done. Tagliaferro calmly replies that he's done nothing. At this, the capitalist pulls out a firearm. A shot rings out, then another. Hotel security swarms down from the rafters and a riot breaks out. The senator is trampled to death in the chaos. The only one unaffected is Tagliaferro, who stands alone before the vault. While hard to make out, it seems as if he is smiling. The fighting stops at 10:51. The journalist calls out for the server. The server pushes through the mob towards the chef. As she approaches, she pulls out her knife. As she lunges, Tagliaferro shouts her name. Distracting her, she stumbles and the knife sticks into the arm of A. Shaw, standing next to Tagliaferro. Tagliaferro shouts no. At this, the riot stops. A wet, tearing sound is heard. Amelia Fitzwilliams is seen at the edge of the fissure, falling into the dark. Tagliaferro screams and the ground begins to shake. A deep tremor rumbles, and a thick green haze rises from the fissure. The lights flicker and die, plunging the room into darkness. leaving only the eerie green glow from below. The capitalist laughs. He just can't help himself, can he? Tagliaferro quietly states, "There are a hell of a lot of things going on here. Like Charlie's conspiracy board, but every string is real." SCP 8947 is a cyclical anomalous event at a hotel. It was destroyed in a fire, an earthquake in 1922. The ghosts of patrons appear every week, Thursday to Sunday. They carry out the events as if it were 1922. These entities are corporeal. The Foundation can interact with them. This interaction is important for containment procedures. At the cycle's end, they make a gold offering. The offering is for a fissure beneath the structure. If the offering is too small, the fissure gets angry. It spits out a strange toxic fog. The Foundation has a ritualized contingency plan for this, but they'd rather not use it, because it is horrifying. Most of the article concerns an ideal opportune scenario. A golden path for Foundation game theorists to guiding individuals and events to ensure no casualties. And enough wealth is thrown in to keep the fissure dormant. Foundation teams continually work to experiment and manipulate. They seek new ways to make the whole thing problem-free. It's a fascinating look at containment where it's like clockwork, except that sometimes the gears are self-aware and actively resist. This emergent awareness seems to stem from the fact that there's a certain level of memory bleed-through between cycles. For instance, the groundskeeper is becoming increasingly aware of his own mortality. In contrast, Tagliaferro himself is only actually visible twice, along with his granddaughter and another child, A. Shaw. The cycle comes to a head on Sunday night when a group of conspirators forces Tagliaferro to open his vault and reveal the money supposedly in it. When they do, a riot breaks out over what's in there, although we are not told at first what it is since no one can get into the vault anymore. During this, the server tries to stab the chef but accidentally stabs A. Shaw. This causes Tagliaferro's granddaughter to fall into the fissure, and this is a pivotal event for making sure the worst-case scenario doesn't happen. I'd rather not delve into too much speculation, but it seems that Tagliaferro became party to some kind of occult deity of greed. The nature of their relationship is unknown, although he seems to have attempted to attain immortality through a deal with this deity, and later failed. It's quite possible that he was funneling large sums of money to this deity. The missing $75 million, assuming that it even existed, was likely part of this. This is what caused the earthquake to break out and the cycle to begin, and signs point to the fact that the only ingredient missing from the alchemical ritual to create living gold was the blood of an innocent, the blood of Tagliaferro's innocent granddaughter. His plan went horribly wrong, but it's still unclear who A. Shaw is, and what his role in all this was. Obviously, it seems that the Foundation is getting better at managing the cycle, and there are subtle machinations that continue to be discovered. These discoveries allow them to put in some of their actual gold rather than relying on the entities. This is an incredibly complex article, especially with all its moving parts. The narrative that unfolds across the 4 days really comes alive. With all the different characters, their motivations, and the Foundation's observations and interactions, it's a masterclass in world building and in which it showcases how the Foundation tackles complex problems, and the ins and outs of working with complex anomalies. Really, the most interesting character here is the groundskeeper, who seems to be able to learn and adapt from cycle to cycle, up to and including completing a complex alchemical ritual. Hopefully they eventually figure out a way to prod him into breaking the cycle, severing Tagliaferro's link to the deity of greed, and rescuing the granddaughter, if she can still be saved.